Paul Kern was a Hungarian soldier who served during World War I. On June 24, 1915, when Paul was 31 years old, he got shot in the head. An event that would change his life forever. He survived the shot. However, the bullet took part of his frontal lobe, leaving him unable to fall asleep for the rest of his life. 15 years later, a newspaper in Australia published an article on Paul which stated, "The best brain and nerve specialists in Budapest have been unable to trace from X-ray examinations any abnormality. Dr. Frey, a noted university professor, who had been watching the case for years, admits that he is baffled. Paul mysteriously survived for years without being able to sleep, claiming that it had no effect on his overall health." Paul's story sounds incredible, considering the fact that we don't have sufficient evidence to establish that Paul was telling the truth about his lack of sleep. After all, scientific experiments show us how badly even the slightest decrease in amount of sleep affects our bodies. According to study published in JAMA Internal Medicine, just missing out on 15 minutes of sleep is enough to lead to significant weight gain. 12,000 people were involved in this study. The participants used fitness tracking app, which gathered their sleep data for a period of 2 years. The study found that obese people, BMI above 30, only slept 15 minutes less on average as compared to people who had healthy BMIs. The findings of the study support the idea that sleep patterns impact our weight. How does missing on some sleep makes us gain weight? It happens due to the fact that lack of rest causes a spike in the release of hunger hormone, ghrelin, and decrease in levels of fullness hormone, leptin. In other words, we are more hungry when we are tired, so we eat more. Insufficient sleep has been linked to consumption of 300 extra calories per day. Weight gain is not the only result of sleep deprivation. Back in 1965, 17-year-old Randy Gardner stayed awake for 11 days and 24 minutes, setting a recognized world record for the longest amount of time a person stayed awake for science. On the surface, Gardner appeared to get through it okay. He managed to beat his friend at pinball, for example. But all was not well with Gardner. Soon, physiological and cognitive tests began to reveal how badly he was affected by the lack of sleep. Only 24 hours into the experiment, Gardner's vision got blurred as his eyes stopped focusing. 48 hours in, Gardner could no longer identify objects by touch. 72 hours in, he experienced severe mood swings. By the end of the experiment, he was no longer able to concentrate. His short-term memory was not working as it should. He was disoriented and experienced hallucinations. After the study ended, he recovered without long-term damage to his health. However, for others, severe sleep deprivation could lead to permanent cognitive or physiological damage. Adults need 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night. 35.2% of all adults in the US report sleeping on average for less than 7 hours per night. According to 2017 study, insufficient sleep has an estimated economic impact of over $411 billion each year in the United States alone. Drowsy driving is responsible for more than 6,000 fatal car crashes every year in the United States. People with severe insomnia are 7 times more likely to have work-related accidents than an average person. So what happens when we sleep that is so crucial for our mental and physical health? During sleep, our brains are cleaned by a cerebral spinal fluid that flushes any waste product that accumulated in the brain during wake hours. While we sleep, the brain sorts through the information we picked up throughout the day, gets rid of the junk information we don't need, and keeps the things worth remembering. Another thing that happens when we sleep is the human growth hormone release. This hormone stimulates cell regeneration and production of new cells. In other words, it is responsible for ensuring we stay young on a cellular level. All the processes that take place while we sleep are essential to health. Going back to the story of Paul, a soldier that claimed he didn't sleep for years. As mentioned earlier, his frontal lobe was damaged due to the bullet that went through his head. The prefrontal cortex, located within the frontal lobe, was damaged as well. Why is this important to know? The prefrontal cortex is the only part of the brain that has the ability of self-assessment. Damage to prefrontal cortex can lead to a number of cognitive consequences, one of which is confabulation, a memory error defined as the production of fabricated, distorted memories about oneself or the world. Confabulation is distinguished from lying, as there is no intent to deceive, and the person is unaware the information is false. Whether Paul had really been unable to sleep, or he wasn't telling the truth without knowing it, will remain a mystery. Overall, it is safe to assume that we all need sleep to survive.